What's up everybody, I'm Michael, and if you like watching stuff get destroyed, then I've got a cool one for you today. Behind me is a Sierra 500-ton shear baler, and this thing will take a whole car and turn it down into a little cube. But in this video, we're going to take a closer look at what we had to do to get this machine back up and running after it's been sitting for 4 years, and then we're going to try to get it moved from this location to the back side of our property. Let's take a quick look at the machine and see what we're working with. So like I said, this is a Sierra 500-ton shear baler, and it has been sitting for about 4 years. The reason why it's been sitting for 4 years is we did have some engine issues, which I will show you in just a moment. This is a diesel powered unit instead of an electric powered unit, but unfortunately it is in a very bad location on our scrapyard. It's kind of right in the middle, and we really want to utilize this space for something else, but of course we want the machine back running and able to be used. We don't use it much on this yard anymore because we have a bigger one, so we will likely move this one over to our other yard as soon as we see fit. So as soon as they get busy enough to justify having their own shear, we will take this over there and use it there. But you can see by all the stuff kind of stacked around or caked under this thing that it has been sitting in this spot for quite some time, and unfortunately been neglected a little bit. But that's about to change because we are finally putting it back together. So the biggest issue that we had with this machine is, I guess it's been about 4 years ago, the exhaust flap on the muffler was stuck straight up, and which allowed all of the rain and any other precipitation down through the muffler, through the exhaust, into the turbo, through the exhaust manifold, and unfortunately into the head, and then it froze and we had bigger problems. We didn't realize that that had happened until we took our other shear down for maintenance, and we were going to use this one as a backup, and when we went to start it, it was hydro locked. So then we discovered that issue, and it's probably been a couple years ago at this point. We've just been so busy with so many other projects that this one kind of got put on the back burner, but I'm glad to finally get it back up and going. We were able to save the head. The head did have to go to the machine shop and kind of get resurfaced, but it was in good shape. The only thing that we did have to replace was the turbo. The old turbo is basically completely locked up from rusting. But overall, aside from just having to take it completely apart and put it back together, we were pretty much able to use all the same parts. The injectors were fine, and that's pretty much where it's at now. So we do have it back together. It spins over, no problem, no issues there. And then unfortunately, since it's been sitting here, one of the operators has dropped a piece of scrap onto this electrical panel, which is very unfortunate. You can see by those butt connectors that maybe 8 to 10 wires were broken, and then the panel itself was pretty smashed. I'm glad the rest of it wasn't torn up too bad, and thankfully Alex is a genius when it comes to this stuff, so he'll get a new panel and throw it back together and it'll look as good as new. But it's definitely still a major bummer to have to deal with that, because if that didn't happen, this thing would more than likely, with the engine fixed, fire right up and run just like it used to. And so the plan is, once we get it running and operating correctly, to use these hydraulic outrigger legs to lift the machine all the way up, clean out from under it really good. And then actually this is a portable machine, so we'll back a low boy underneath it and set it down on the low boy, chain it down really well, and then we'll be able to move it out of this area, which is ultimately what we're after, as well as fixing the machine and getting it back usable. So let's see what we can get done and go from there. Are you letting go of the key, or is it just dying?
Both. That time it was not me.
So we got the machine picked up with the outriggers and cleaned up the dirt and debris out from underneath it. And with it picked up as far as it'll go with the outriggers, it's about 4 feet off the ground. And these outriggers are about 9.5 feet apart. So it should be tall enough and wide enough to be able to basically just back a low boy or a step deck style trailer underneath it. And then we'll use the outriggers to actually set the machine back down on the trailer, and then we'll chain it down and move it across the yard. The biggest problem we've run into, so we let the machine sit from Friday to Monday, so basically over the weekend after we got it to run that first time. And then on Monday when we checked the oil, we realized that it had filled the engine with coolant. So unfortunately, the head is still bad. So we took that head to the machine shop, and I don't know if they just didn't pressure test it or if they missed something, or I don't even know. But so basically it's bad. The engine's gonna have to come back apart. But to get it to move, we just drained the entire cooling system. We drained that coolant and oil out of the engine, put fresh oil in it and fresh filters on it, and then we cranked it up just long enough to where we could pick the outriggers up all the way, which are operated by those 4 hydraulic valves right there. But basically we just checked the temperature while we left it running at idle. It never even got to operating temperature, so that was completely fine. And that's going to be the same way we'll unload it off the trailer in the back. But it's a huge bummer because we spent a few days putting it back together and trying to make sure we did everything correctly, and it's just got to come all the way back apart. But we're going to move it first, that way we're not stuck in this little muddy hole back here next to the scrap pile. But the next dilemma we have is what type of trailer we're going to use to move it. So we actually don't have a great trailer to put this on. We've only got to move it a few hundred yards, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to have to be safe, and that's the main thing. I'm happy to say that we were able to move the machine without incident. We were going to use our little tilt deck lowboy trailer, but we realized that probably wasn't the best idea, so we ended up using my buddy's old lowboy trailer that you saw in the video. He actually came over and watched us set the machine down on the trailer just to make sure that everything went okay, and it did. It actually worked out well. So I wish that I could show you guys this thing running and operating and baling cars and chopping up scrap, but unfortunately with that engine still being bad, we're going to tear it back down and probably just send the whole engine off this time to get rebuilt. So if we get around to doing that and we actually get it up and running, I'll show you an update video of it processing stuff. But in the meantime, maybe I'll show you a video of our bigger machine, which is the exact same thing, doing some of that stuff. So make sure you guys subscribe and follow if you want to see some of this stuff in action. Thanks.